So it's been close to a month or two since my last big video, and by big, I mean anything that exceeds past the 30-minute mark. Since that time, I've been reading a lot of manhwa, works that are fresh and new from anything I've seen, as well as series that a lot of you vouch to give another shot. But every time I pick up a new series and scroll through the endless stories, there's this little voice in my head telling me to pick up a manga. Pick up a manga! So I did. But I can't just make a video taking your guys' recommendations. I've already done that both in the form of manhwa and manga. So to add a little twist, here's what we're gonna do. Usually I'd make a community post asking for your recommendations, but for this video specifically, I got every recommendation from my Discord server. Link in the description if you want to join. Every recommendation is based on the letters of the alphabet. So to not overcomplicate things, if I needed a manga with the letter A, then the recommendations I would take would be limited to manga that starts with the letter A. For example, Akimetsu, Attack on Titan, Ajin. You get the idea. This premise carried all the way to the letter M, not Z. I'll explain that later. Every person was allowed 1 to 2 recommendations. The length of the series did not matter. However, for each series I read up to the first 25 chapters. Some manga were really good, while others had me depressed and sad. Other works were extremely wholesome and brought to life premises I've never read before, while others had me go through 5 stages of grief. I'm done! I can't take this anymore. So God help me if I could just reach in the screen and grab this guy by the neck and slam him. Pause. I decided to make this video consist of half of the alphabet, so 16 manga in total. For future video's sake, I wanted to keep the other half for a sequel where I include YouTube comments. At the end of this video, I'm going to be ranking the manga from best to worst. Not objectively, but how well I enjoyed them at the time. Okay, so with all of that out the way, without delaying any further, sit back, maybe grab a snack, because we have a lot of manga to go through. So with the first letter of the alphabet being A, the manga that was recommended to me was a series titled A Raven for All Seasons, suggested by Boomshakalakka. The world was created by the mountain gods and governed by the golden raven. Years have passed and it's coming close to when their prince is seeking a spouse. Rumors and whispers are building amongst the community, wondering who will be the next empress. All stakes and tribulation is all for the next golden raven. The story follows a second princess named Asebi. Asebi is someone who can be described as absent-minded, curious, and is someone who brings life to any room she enters. Spring is approaching, bringing along the long-awaited courting. 4 princesses from the region of Yamachi come together and compete for the crown prince in hopes of being chosen as his future bride. Normally, the first princess would go, but in this case, Asabi's sister caught smallpox, rendering her too sick to enter the palace. Headed to the Sakura Palace, it's here where we're introduced to the other princesses of each region. The daughter of the south, west, and north. They each get assigned a residence, and it's here where the story begins. So essentially, the story is about 4 princesses competing to win the affection of the crowned prince. On surface, this isn't the most enticing or compelling story, but it holds elements of mystery, tension, drama, and the characters in the story makes the manga worth the while. Asabi has been sheltered practically her whole life. She doesn't have any knowledge that the average princess should know, like what to do during a tea ceremony or how to make dolls, or the culture and history surrounding the Sakura Palace. Throughout her time being there, she starts to learn what the real world is really like, how people who lack money get by to survive, the political powers and corruption that lie within the palace. Tiny bits of the story gets unraveled, arising many unanswered questions. Questions like, who is Asabe's mother and why is she so hated? What is the origin and history of the crows? Why must this person have to win the courting, even going as far as threatening to kill herself? A Raven for All Season was a decent manga. I don't generally read these sort of stories, but from the tiny bit I did read, it was okay. This was a good manga to start the video. It wasn't bad, but then again, it wasn't anything grand either. When it comes to the genre of music in the form of anime or manga, there's really a few that stick out and help pave the way for other stories. Your Lie in April, Bocchi the Rock, Boys on the Slope, Nana, or a few that comes to mind that are respected within the space. Music is this tool that's been around for generations. It allows one to express themselves and transport their listener into another realm. It holds history, nostalgia, excitement, and inspiration. All of these emotions and feelings are all tethered together to produce sounds for our enjoyment. Blue Giant, despite being a manga, feels like you can feel every facet of sounds being produced. You feel each weight behind a character's instrument. It's all centered around one character, Miyamoto Dai. Dai is a regular high school student. He sleeps in class, is part of the basketball team, and generally spends his time with the friends he has. Hey, what are these CDs on the table? Oh, that's just jazz. I picked up some famous names. So what kind of music is it? One day, his friend would invite him to a jazz concert. Okay, it's right here. Let's enter the jazz world. Since that day, jazz became the most prominent thing in his life. He got a saxophone for himself and played it every single day. No matter the weather or circumstances that was going on in his life, he made sure to get one session, swearing to himself that he will be the greatest jazz musician in the world. The dude is so passionate about jazz that for him, trying to describe what it is that's so significant about jazz to others sounds confusing or weird. It's a feeling that's hard to put into words. For Dai, jazz is hot and intense, makes him feel free, and lets him display to the world the emotions he's feeling, no matter if he's happy or sad. The story and journey of watching Dai develop as a character is one of the best parts about this story. He flat out sucks. He can't read a music sheet and his playing is obnoxiously loud, but that doesn't stop him from pursuing his dreams. On chapter 6, Dai was finally debuting as a musician and got a gig to play at this bar. He's extremely nervous and jittery, but manages to do just fine until his opportunity to do his solo performance. Pipe down. You hear me? Huh? Pipe down. What? Quit being so loud. He blows it, not being aware of the atmosphere and the tone of the place he's in. He steps off of the stage, packs his sack, and heads out. Making it to this park, he sits down and says, screw it. This right here is a perfect representation of Dai Miyamoto's grit and passion of wanting to become a musician. Even when he fails horribly and most people would feel discouraged at this given scene, he takes this loss as an opportunity to grow, and eventually further down in the story, we see the long-awaited redemption. This is what makes the manga of Blue Giant so great. It's the trials and errors that we see as a reader that makes this manga special. It's seeing how this goofy-looking dude with a boozy fade goes from picking up a sax for fun to eventually being a legend, where others down the line speak of him with nothing but praise, to the endless practicing, to skipping out on fun events, to wearing out multiple reeds, to performing and inspiring others with his music is what makes this manga special. This series was really hard to put down. It motivated me and inspired me to be a better version of myself. I don't care if you're someone who isn't into jazz or you don't typically enjoy reading music-related manga. Blue Giant inspires growth through passion. Everyone should experience and read this manga at least once in their life. There's also a film about it that I'm gonna watch after reading the entirety of the manga. But until then, shout out to my boy Roshi for giving me this hidden gem. Man, this manga is so good. There's no other series that's gonna top this. Like, actually. Wait. Capita? Looks interesting enough. Let's see what it's about. Capita is a story about this kid. On surface, he is the perfect child. You never see him complain or ask for anything, and he'll do anything he can to not cause his dad any troubles. He's extremely obedient and puts up an act to not worry anybody. Having lost his mom, his dad works very long hours to provide for him. This results in him rarely being home, but the moments that he is there is nothing short but happiness for the two of them. Capita is a child. Despite not admitting it, he yearns to share the same emotions, memories, and activities that every other kid in his class experiences with their family. Compared to other students, he's really mature and doesn't act his age. As a kid, he should be playing around, looking at dumb things and enjoying his youth to the fullest. But to him, it's all boring. Nothing really excites him. The one thing that gives him dopamine and joy is cars. Seeing a GTR, looking at a manual Lancer Evolution brings him excitement. His dad, even when he's not around, is constantly thinking about Capita. Knowing his passion and love for cars, he begs his boss if he can have one of the old kart frames so that he can progressively build it into a working kart. He manages to build a base with a few things needed to be fixed, but one day, Capita stumbles upon his secret gift. The look on his face, seeing him burst out with excitement and looking like a kid on Christmas, was so wholesome. Despite crashing and falling flat face onto the grass, he gets up and continues driving it again and again. Because to him, this is everything he could have ever wanted. Eventually, they take the car into the racetracks where his dad works at. The car sucks. It isn't fast, but that doesn't matter. This kart was built and made with the closest group of people that he'd consider his friends and family. From this point forward, Capita gets introduced into the world of kart racing and his journey of becoming the #1 in this sport. I've never read any manga where the centerpiece is focused around karting and formula racing. This series is such a breath of fresh air. It's nail-biting, exhilarating, and overall a really good series. It's one of my favorite manga I've read in this entire list and definitely deserves more eyes upon it. So on that note, thank you so much for introducing me to So, if you've been watching a few of my videos, you would know that I'm a really big fan of Inoue Asano's works. His stories has always been nothing short of pristine, and the narrative of each of his works, from Solo Nin to Ayasumi Pun Pun to Downfall, are all serious and thought-provoking stories that I find myself resonating and reflecting upon my own life experiences. Have I lived with no regrets? Is the choices that I'm making smart for my future? Is there a point of anything? Depression, sadness, love, relationships are in no ways bread and butter. So going into this next manga titled Dead Demons Destructions. God, this name is cursed. I was fully prepared for what was to come. I got my tissues ready, my blanket, and began reading the first chapter. Let me tell you, despite my preparations, I was in fact not prepared at all. The story of Dead Demon's Destruction follows these group of high school girls who are closing into their final years of...
Today will be a great day for doing...
With this coming into an end, many of them begin to think about what their future has in store. What careers, jobs, and places are they headed?
3 years and 2 months has passed since 8/31. We understand that many find this situation upsetting, but we will try our hardest to ensure...
The story is ultimately a slice of life, but don't get too comfortable because in a flash... Hey, Anton. What would you do if you could fly? Citizens, don't forget. This is an event that the Japanese will never forget. Today marks the 3-year anniversary of the August 31st. Hurry up and use those weapons. Even if the world forgets, we never will. years ago, a mothership arrived in Tokyo, bringing along super celestial being. Many people are against them, others welcome them, and the Japanese government and army is in constant battle against them. That day, everything changed, but at the same time, nothing that could be considered significant occurred. The characters in this story still go to school, hang out with one another, and still worry about what their future would be like. Dead Demon's Destruction is about the anxiety that people of today feel. It's about the external question of how can I look forward to my future, hang out with friends when there is death, war, and exams looming around me. It deals with many heavy topics and the story is realistic as hell. There's aspects of mystery, thriller, and conspiracies that draws your attention into the story. The art and the atmosphere of the story conjointly come together to create this sense of eldritch feeling. The hyper detail spreads, brings out the scale, and puts into perspective how large everything is when compared to the characters. The constant tension of having a literal spacecraft above you, brought in a way dropping old parts, and the reactions of everyday people is scary. But don't worry though, if you've ever seen any of his past works, he still keeps the same goofy looking character designs. I'm for sure going to continue reading it after this video. It was suggested by my friend GillyRazor, so yeah, good recommendation. Also, Anton is easily the best character, like there's no competition. Just look at this dialogue exchange. She's just like me for real. So, moving to the letter E, the next manga was suggested by AruminDes, and it's a series titled eyeshield 21. eyeshield 21 is a really old school, almost nostalgic type manga. It's one of, if not the biggest, football related manga. I remember seeing it surface years ago, but never really sat down and read it. So getting it suggested to me for this video was the perfect opportunity to start reading it. eyeshield 21 follows the story of a character named Senna who is just entering high school. Starting a new chapter in his life, leaving behind his past memories of getting bullied, he looks at some flyers and is interested in joining a club. One day, he stumbles upon the football club and is hesitant in joining. He views football as a bunch of meatheads clashing together given that free CTE.
Oh my god!
But there's a position open for being a manager that he might be interested in. Fast forwarding into the story, he runs into trouble with these group of delinquents and ends up getting chased. During this chase, you really see how well his vision is, as well as his ability to run. Every sort of aspect that would be good for a running back, he has. Ability to run routes, dive, have a great vision is all present. One of the person who sees this is this guy who is currently the captain of the football team. So, what do you think he does to try and convince him to join? Well, like any sane person, of course he decides to kidnap him. What, you wouldn't do that too? This results in Senna joining the team with the jersey number 21. To hide his identity, he was given the pseudonym eyeshield, hence the title of this manga. This one was really straightforward and honest. The plot isn't anything unique, but it's told in a way that was funny and entertaining. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of football, but the matches in this series is also done very well. You can see the passions, emotions, and competitive drive of every character on the field. All in all, it's a good series. Again, worth checking out if you've never read it. Moving forward to the letter F, suggested by INFINITIX, the next manga is a series titled F. If that's not a perfect name for a video like this, I don't know what is. F is a really old manga. There's not much to say about it. It's a manga about this guy named Gunma road to joining F1. The story takes a more serious approach and shows a lot of heavy themes that's hard to stomach. Gunma, the main character, is not a good guy. He's extremely selfish, only cares for his enjoyment, and is willing to do anything to fuel his desires. Growing up, he lost his mom and doesn't share a strong relationship with his dad. This forces him to be sort of banished or disowned by his family. So to get back, he seeks out a path for himself, creating a name with the one thing he knows how to do: drive. Within his journey, he meets a ton of great people, followed by his fateful childhood friend who's a really good mechanic. The story was alright. It wasn't the best manga I've read on this list, To be honest, I couldn't really stand the MC, but hey, I only read 25 chapters out of the 329. Take what I say with a grain of salt. He could have an insane character development. Going to the letter G, I got a manga suggested to me by another one of my friends named Terrible Wonder, and he gave me a manga titled Gekikou Kamen. The story is really slow and there isn't much development throughout the 25 chapters that I read. I couldn't give you a synopsis, or I should say, I don't think I can accurately give one, to be honest. Usually when I make these long form videos where I need to read a ton of manga, I have a doc of just notes from all the series I read. These notes consist of what I was feeling at the time of me reading a given series. Now, if we scroll down to G, most of the notes consist of what is going on. Still have zero clue what's going on. Dude, honestly, I didn't think it was possible to give me a manga more confusing than Dead Demon's Destruction. On the website I was reading this on, the top comment that perfectly summed up my experience is this screenshot right here. Suffice to say, I was lost. However, oddly enough, I was intrigued with the characters, especially the MC. I found the process of building one of the suits they use and the lore behind the vigilante story that was a hero during the war to be very interesting. Although I was lost, I wanted to learn more about the story and understand it. So I did a bit of digging but came short. Seriously, there's literally no one talking about this series. Whether it be Twitter, Reddit, even the Mal page for it's kinda underdeveloped. It wasn't until I searched the series on YouTube and came across a creator who goes by the name of Kagurabachi. I am very sorry if I'm butchering your name. He explained the series way better than I ever could, so if you're interested about this one and want a more in-depth explanation, go to his video. I'll put it in the description. The only absolute and best friend a man has in this selfish world, the only one that will not betray or deny him, is his dog, is a famously known quote by King Frederick II of Prussia, and is a quote that perfectly reflects the story of Hoshi Mamoru Inu. Stargazing Dog, suggested by Khan, is an extremely short story sitting at 13 chapters. In this manga, several stories are brought together that all connect to one another by the end of it. The story is told from the perspective of a dog and how he experiences life with his owner. Many of the reactions of the characters in this story are rejection or disinterest, but over time, they start to develop a bond with their dog, to the point that some even saves their lives. The different stories highlights the unconditional love and loyalty that dogs show towards humans and how they perceive the world around them. I don't want to say or give too much about the story, it's already short enough, but I thoroughly enjoyed this manga. I can see a lot of people resonating to the story Stargazing Dog has to offer. There are very few stories that I can say have left a genuine impact on my life. Stories that I can take away and relate to. Stories that changed my viewpoint about life and the way I've lived so far. And stories that managed to capture that feeling that's hard to put into words. I Sold My Life for 10,000 yen a year is a manga recommended to me by Split, and is a story that easily sits in a different sphere when compared to every other manga on this list. The story follows this 20-year-old guy named Kusunoki who, up to this point, has lived a pretty mediocre life. He has nothing to his name, nor has he done anything that would make him believe he has lived his life to the fullest. Kusunoki is broke, and he is in need for some money, so he heads out and decides to sell some of his items that he owns. While selling his items, the store clerk asks him a question, one that would have you thinking. Would you sell your lifespan? Unsure about the idea, this question lingers inside the back of his head until he eventually bites and does it. Summing up his total, his life is worth a measly 300,000 yen, converting to around 2,500 USD. Yeah, that sucks, but at least he has some life left. Maybe 2 years, 4. Huh. Yeah, that's pretty bad. A person's value stems from multiple things. How happy that person's life is. Does their life bring happiness to others? Have they achieved their dreams, their contribution to society? You get the idea. Normally, when one is placed in a situation like this, most people would react poorly. Some would freak out and spend the last days in complete madness, or even decide to let their intrusive thoughts take over. So as a means to control this, an observer is sent to watch over the person. I Sold My Life for 10,000 yen is a manga about these two characters. As we sit and read the MC live out his final days on Earth and how he spends it with his observer. The manga is centered around the value of life and the things you do in the little time you're here. The story is really short with it only having 16 chapters. I've been rambling for far too long, so I'll end it at this. For its short story, it's touched an entire community and is regarded by some a literal masterpiece. I really enjoyed this manga. It's one of those series where once you finish it, you feel kind of sad, but happy you experienced an amazing story. I'm curious though, would you sell either your health, lifespan, or time if it meant you could get money in exchange? Let me know in the comments below, and with that, we move on to the letter J. Jagaan's story can be summed up with bam, boom, most of the time. Jagaaan is a police officer who hates every facet of his job. He isn't respected for the work he puts in and puts up a fake smile to get by. At home, he has a girlfriend who constantly brings up the idea of marriage. They're at the age now where settling down is the most appropriate thing to do, but for our main character, he feels like he hasn't done enough. He views his life as being extremely boring with no sense of excitement or danger. Randomly one day, frogs descend from the sky, infiltrating the bodies of many humans. These frogs amplify the emotions and desires a person is going through and uses that energy to turn them into monsters. Some are able to control these frogs and are gifted with special abilities, whilst others wreak havoc, resulting in many innocent lives being lost. These two groups are split into two, with the first being fractured humans and the other being an unfractured human. Snap out of it! Shoot! Shoot to kill! Roger. Shoot. It would have been nice to have fired at least one bullet. Shoot him up. Jagaaan is a fractured human, and later down the line, he gains the ability that allows him to transform his arm into a gun. He teams up with this talking owl who explains to him that it is his job to get rid of every other fractured human. So this is a story of our main character fighting against crazy monsters and in a way, getting the exciting life he wanted. This manga was really fun. It was non-stop gore and action. Seriously, the amount of blood and limbs tearing or head exploding is absurd. I do gotta warn you though, again, this series has a lot of disturbing themes, so if you do decide to read it, be wary of this. But yeah, dope manga, no complaints on my end. It reminded me a lot of Parasite, but with a little more action, if that makes sense. Thank you YC for the suggestion.
Kagurabachi.
Moving on to the letter K, the next manga that was recommended to me was again by INFINITX, and the series he gave me was Kagurabachi. I completely forgot this manga existed. I erased it off of my memories, so when I seen the title, I was like, why does that sound familiar? It's not until I went to go read the first chapter and everything clicked. Oh, I know this manga. Kagurabachi is a fairly new Shonen Jump series that follows the story of a vengeful swordsman getting revenge against his father's killers. His dad was a famous swords crafter who's built multiple renowned swords over the years, 6 of which helped turn the tide to a war. After the war was over, he retrieved the swords and hid it in a spot no one would be able to find. The basement under his workshop. Because of the nature of the swords and the strength it holds, this attracted a very powerful sorcerer group. This group forcefully took the swords, resulting in the death of his dad. Now, fast forwarding into the future, the story follows the MC in his journey of getting all 6 swords back, whilst killing anyone who stands in the way of his revenge. The plot is very basic, but I surprisingly really like this series, way more than I was expecting. While I was uninterested in the narrative, everything else caught my attention. The art, powers, villains, even some of the characters were pretty entertaining. If the quality of the fights continues to be on par with this one, then I'm for sure going to continue reading it. But one little thing, the MC is such an edgelord. Like, take this dialogue exchange for example. What you looking at, huh? You hungry?
No thanks.
Well, that's too bad. Hey, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Your scar, would you heal it if you could? It doesn't look too bad though.
The mornings when I wash my face and look in the mirror, I obviously notice it. I remember the day, and every morning every morning I start the day with a renewed hatred.
Dude, this manga is so peak. Moving on to the letter L, the next manga is titled Land of the Lustrous, and it was suggested by Guts. My experience with this manga is kind of like the Gekikou Kamen. For majority of the read, I was a little confused with the story. I feel like especially with me being lost in the plot, the art was not making it any better. Not saying that it's bad, but I found it hard to tell what's going on, if that makes sense. Imagine a world where there is no gender, no race, and the glimpse of humanity is non-existent. Crystal beings are the one thing that fights and keeps everything alive. Set on Earth after it was struck by 6 meteorites thousands of years into the future, jewels called Lustrous reside protecting a small island from mysterious lunarious monsters. The MC of this story is a jewel named Foss, who can be described as caring, naive, and simple-minded. Foss feels like she's falling behind compared to the other jewels. She spends most of her time doing nothing but staring at the sky. Normally within this world, a jewel is given a job, whether that be fighting, crafting, being a medic, you get the picture. Foss, however, has a gem structure that can easily be shattered, resulting in it being difficult to give a job. Eventually in the story, without spoiling anything, she obtains these new arms and legs, which comes with the ability to heighten her speed, agility, and strength, leading her to become strong enough to fight against the moon people. The manga follows Foss's story as she slowly descends deeper and deeper into insanity. I think. I don't know. That's just what people online say, at least. Although I'm still very much confused, I do think the series in general is extremely new and creative. It has this uniquely elegant art style that shows you the beauty of the gems. The environment go hand in hand at certain crystals, and the antagonist has this wonerific look to them. Like many of the other series on this list, I'm going to continue this as the mystery is really compelling, and I really want to see how Foss develops by the end of the story. Moving forward onto the letter M, I got a manga suggested to me by Split titled Major. Major is about this kid named Goro Honda who's extremely obsessed with baseball. The kid lives and breathes the sport. Despite being a kindergartner, he spends every ounce of his free time practicing his pitch, playing catch with a friend, and teaching others why the sport is so dear to him. He lives with only his dad, and his mother passed away. This kid's dad is a professional baseball player. To him, he views his father as his hero, someone who he looks up to and respects proudly. The story is essentially a journey of the kid battling hardships, life, and pursuing his dream of being a professional baseball player. It's extremely wholesome and the cast of characters are all a joy to read. I myself played baseball as well. Nothing too grand, but I resonate a lot with this story. W recommendation, if only we could end it here. Do we really have to talk about this last manga? So before getting into this, I want to preference that this manga has two different versions. One that was made by Furaya Usamaru, while the other was made by Junji Ito. I personally read this version. I don't know if the stories of the both of them are different, but being truthfully honest with you, I'm not gonna find out. This manga was one of the worst manga I have ever read in my life. It's beyond me that the series managed to get an 8 rating on Mal, let alone an anime adaptation. I'm not gonna say too much since it's only 12 chapters and it's extremely short, but although I'm completely against it, if you really want to, go ahead and read it. No Longer Human opens up with this mangaka finding a blog randomly one night. This blog is an autobiography about a guy named Yozo Oba, titled No Longer Human. It basically outlines his life from childhood to teen to adult, and it explains the events that led up to how he is, why he doesn't trust humans, and why he can't seem to understand emotions. Pretty much throughout his upbringing, he never formed his own identity. For him, it feels like he played the role of a clown his entire life. He puts up a fake smile, pretends to be the perfect student, while mastering social cues and emotions to display at a given scenario. Upon entering his senior year, his old man decided to cut his funds to help him sharpen up. This one event caused a turn in his life. It's here where everything began to spiral downhill. No Longer Human is a tale of despair. It is not a heartwarming story. There is no winners or a satisfying ending. Everything is just empty. It's about this man who breaks and slowly descends into madness, following the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over and over. The MC isn't someone you're supposed to like, which I get that, but I've never read a more insufferable and annoying main character in my life. The guy is a literal parasite who has no self-worth. All he cares about is himself and is willing to do the most heinous things to get the things he wants. If it's not clear, I did not enjoy this manga. No, actually, I hate and despise this manga. The only thing that this series has going for itself is its art style. It especially shines at depicting the mental state of the main character. Furuya is really able to show you the utter madness of a character like Yozo, and the visual interpretations of how he views fear, anxiety, and sadness is truly something else. Some of the panels in this manga, I just had to sit down and stare at it for a minute to let it all soak in. This manga gets very, very dark, and it involves many serious themes, so keep that in mind if you do decide to read it. Okay, so there you have it. Forcing myself to read every manga recommendation of the alphabet, starting from the letter A all the way down to N. This video was a lot of fun to make. It's always nice starting a new series and experiencing them for the first time. There were a lot of hits within this list that I really enjoyed. I think out of the 16, maybe 2 or even 3 were bad according to my taste. Depending on how this video goes, I'll do a part 2 where I pick up where this video left off. So starting from the letter M down to Z. I said I was going to rank them from 1 being the best to 16 being dead last. So here are the rankings. Coming at dead last, I'm sure isn't a surprise to many, is the manga I read last, No Longer Human. Number 13, we have F, no explanation needed. Sitting at the 12th spot is A Raven for All Seasons. Not a bad manga, but not my taste. 11 is Gekikou Kamen, simply because of its story not really hitting for me, and because I was lost throughout the entire 25 chapters. Now, rankings from this point forward was so hard Each of these series I truly did enjoy. Coming at the 10th spot, we have Hoshimaru Inu. 9th is eyeshield 21. 8th is Capita. 7th is Land of the Illustrious. 6th is Major. 5th, I Sold My Life for 10,000 yen a year. 4th is Kagurabachi. Really surprised me, a lot better than I was expecting. 3rd, I bet you weren't expecting this, but I'm gonna have to give it to Jagaaan. 2nd is Dead Demons Destructions. And last but not least, sitting at my number 1 spot is easily Blue Giant, and it's not even close. Let me know what you think of each series and which one you might even pick up. Like I said earlier, all recommendations came from my Discord server, so if you want to be in a future video, go ahead and join. I'll put a link in the description. As always, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. Until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.